Hi guys, welcome to your first lab. And in this lab, you're going to be analyzing sedimentary rocks and their depositional environments. And in the first few questions, you are going to be making ternary plots. Remember those QFL diagrams? Quartz, feldspar, lithic diagrams? You will be plotting things on there. Now, I'm not going to do any of those for you, but I'll show you how one is done. Let's say we had something, a sandstone that had 10% quartz, 50% feldspar, and that would mean 40%, right, lithics. So let's say hypothetically you had that. Well, if something is 100% quartz, it plots here. If it's 0% quartz, it plots down on this line. But we said it has 10%. So notice how we have these lines in here. If this is 0% quartz, there's 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, 60, 70, 80, 90, 100. So if it is 10% quartz, it plots on this line down here. Now what about 50% feldspar? Well, if it's 100% feldspar, it's here. If it's 0%, it's all the way down here. So let's do the same thing here. 10, right? This line's 10%, 20%, so 10, 20, 30, 40. Let me make sure. 10, 20, 30, 40, 50, right there. And then we have the lithics. So the lithics, if we're 100% here, if we're 0, we're along this line here. So now we have 40% lithics. We go 10, 20, 30, 40. It's on this line where they all meet. That's the composition of your sandstone. So if we were looking at that, then we can look at this chart right here, and that rock was somewhere down right around here. Thus, that sedimentary rock would be a lithic arkose. So hopefully you now know how to plot those. You have 3 of them to do. So for number 1, it says that you're going to be plotting a sandstone with 90% quartz, 5% feldspar, and 5% lithics. Now the next part of this question, it says, what is the correct name of the sandstone according to this chart? So you'll try to figure out where it plots. Is it a quartzite? Is it a subarkose? Is it sublitharonite? Is it an arkose? Or so on. Then the next part says, from what tectonic regime did this sediment derive? And this goes back to this diagram that you saw in lecture. If it plots way up here, that means it's a stable continental craton. If it plots over here, that means it's a recycled origin, basically continent-continent collision. If it's down here, it's a volcanic island arc. So you're going to use those ternary diagrams to actually tell you a little bit about where the sediment that made up that sandstone came from. So that's the first part of this lab that you'll be doing. Now the next part of the lab comes from exercise 4 or chapter 4 in your lab manual. And these questions are all taken directly from there. And for example, it says, refer to chapter 4 in your lab manual to answer the following questions. Question number 4 says, what is the dominant sedimentary rock type shown in figure 4.7? All right, so here is figure 4.7, right? Figure 4.7. It gives you a few photographs of this particular rock formation, some that are a little farther away and some that are a close-up. Then it also tells you, it gives you a description verbally down here, telling you a bit about the rock types, the composition, the texture, and even some regional trends or fossils that are found in there. Don't skip reading this part because sometimes important clues are in there. So you'll be asked questions like, what is the dominant rock type? What does the color tell you about the depositional environment? But then there's this one that says, what is the most likely depositional environment in which it was formed? And you are going to look at this table in your lab manual. It's table 4.1 on page 43. And so you can then read things like the texture and maybe what organisms were in there, right? What fossils you have, what sedimentary structures, what rock types. And from that, you have to figure out what type of depositional environment it was. And I do not just want continental, transitional, or marine. You need to narrow it down to these. Was it an alluvial fan, a glacier, a lake, a meandering stream, or so on? And when I ask you about depositional environments, that's what I want for an answer. Now, as always, if you have any questions about this lab, please let me know.